Father, we just thank you for the opportunity to be here and to worship you freely this morning. We thank you as we come around your word that you have given us a way that we can hear from you. You desire so much to communicate with us. We pray as we open our hearts to hear from you that you would speak. We want to hear your voice today. Thank you, Father. Amen. Thank you. That was fantastic. We just really sense God's presence here with us. And I just want to encourage you as well to continue to pray for Pastor Paul and Noreen. They're finishing off their time in Uganda and Kenya, and they're going to be making their way back to us by the middle of the week. And of course, they've got a busy time coming up too. So just pray that they arrive with strength and they're able to continue on with the things that they're doing here. And I just want to encourage you as well. With what's being done with the food hampers, and just to really commend you for your giving during this time in the lead up to Christmas. It's never a particularly easy time. It's hard as a church to be inviting you into something that's going to cost. We've all got expenses, but the response has been to this point fantastic. And there's been, I've been seeing all the little tags that have been coming through, and there's just so many of you as individuals and as a church really that have just given and given sacrificially. And so I just want to say God honors that, but I do want to encourage you with what we've heard this morning, that it's one thing to take some money out of the pocket and put it in, and there's a certain sacrifice that comes with that, but there's a sacrifice too that comes with getting your hands involved. And next week on the Tuesday and the Wednesday, I think it is, we've got an opportunity to actually get involved. And I just want to say, if we are giving out hampers to 200 people plus other 200 families, plus other families that are coming to receive gifts, the impact on a community the size of Gawler is huge. 200 families plus others. And I just want to encourage you to go beyond saying that's what our church does, to saying I want to be a part of that. I really want to have the opportunity to make a difference in somebody's life this Christmas. And so I do ask you to really consider what time you can give. And I know that if you can't be here all day, both days, Reese is not going to say, well, don't come. All right? So if you can offer 20 minutes in your lunch break to duck in and greet people in the foyer to say, we're glad that you came. We hope this is a blessing. They'll say thank you. All right? So please get involved. And I just want to say as well, my wife sends her apologies. She's not able to be here. We've got close friends of ours that are retiring from ministry in the next couple of weeks, and so they're having a celebration of that at their church today, and so she's there representing us. And so if she wasn't, she would be here with us, but she sends her love and prays that we have a good morning. So let's do that. There's times where you're hearing somebody talk and you're thinking to yourself, I know someone who needs to hear that. I don't want that to be our attitude this morning, all right? I want to talk to us about something that we all need to be open and receptive to. And I know that as I say that, the challenge is to keep you open and receptive. I want to begin by telling a story about raising my kids. And, I've learned a lot through raising my kids about myself and about people and about how hard life can be sometimes. But in the process of raising kids, how many of you have had the experience, if you've, I'm sure most of you have been there, where you have literally spent a good hour or more preparing a meal that goes down on the table, and before it's even really solidly on the table, you've heard, yuck. Feel free to show hands. The kids are not in here, all right? Yeah, I don't like that. Why did you have to make that? And you can put your own words to it because you can hear your kids' voices now. We've heard it enough. And I can remember as a parent arriving at that point, which as parents we do, where we just lose it because we're just so fed up with it. And arriving at that point and realizing that I had to empower my kids with some different words. Because, yuck and I don't like it, that's easy, right? But to actually stop and to say, I'm going to think about what I'm saying here, that's challenging, right? It's easy to say the things that come naturally, but it's challenging to stop, to arrest ourselves. And so I need to empower my kids with some words. And I said, look, okay, maybe instead of yuck, and maybe instead of I don't like that, you could just take a moment to look and see the effort that has gone into this. And it may not be what you like. It's not always going to be. And that's okay, because you're going to eat it anyway, or you're not going to eat it all. This is dinner. So you have a choice. You can either accept that, or you can continue to go yuck. And I don't feel inclined to keep cooking for you. So we can play out this how you want to play it out. But what I would suggest is, rather than a wholesale yuck, identify something in there that you think you could like and say, great, there's mashed potato. That's going to help me cover the beans, or whatever, all right? But to find something there that you can appreciate. And look, to be honest, there are going to be some meals where really as a whole you don't like any of it. But what you can do is see beyond that to the effort that somebody has gone to make this for you. And that's cost them an hour of their life. And you can't even give 10 seconds to stop and think about it. So, this is how we need to approach our lives. And I want to tell us a story. If you want to turn in Luke chapter 17, and I'm always mindful when I talk about saying stories in the Bible, because it alludes to this idea that they're not true. But these things happened. And so maybe a narrative is a better word, but we'll call it story because it's a common word. And here in Luke chapter 17, we see a story. It says, now on his way to Jerusalem, Jesus traveled along the border between Samaria and Galilee. And as he was going into a village, 10 men who had leprosy met him. And they stood at a distance, and they called out in a loud voice, Jesus, Master, have mercy on us. Have pity on us. I don't know, Les, whether you're aware that your TV has a volume switch. Because Joseph Prince only yells as loud on the TV as your volume is turned up. Now, here in real life, when these men yelled out, this was how loud they were actually yelling. But you can turn your volume down, Les. They stood at a distance and they called out to him in a loud voice, Jesus, Master, have pity on us. And when he saw them, he said, Go, show yourselves to the priests. And as they went, they were cleansed. One of them, when he saw he was healed, came back, praising God in a loud voice. And he threw himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him, and he was a Samaritan. Jesus asked, were not all 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? Has no one returned to give praise to God except this foreigner? And then he said to the man, rise and go. Your faith has made you well. The disease leprosy is a disease that we still have in our world today. And today it's often referred to, or commonly referred to, as Hansen's disease. It's a very specific disease. In Bible times, the word leprosy can at times have been used to refer to many various diseases of the skin. But certainly it would have included this, what we call today Hansen's disease. When I was in year 10 and again in year 12 at school, I had the opportunity to go with my parents to India. And on one of those trips, we took the time to go to a leprosy colony. And we were given an extensive tutoring, for want of another word, as to how we should respond when we got there. Because it was an incredibly confronting experience to go into a leprosy colony. And the reality is that in the colony that we went to, all of the people had essentially been cured of leprosy. They weren't contagious. You couldn't catch it from them. But the effects were still evident. And the effects themselves were confronting. And so it was a very difficult thing for me at 14, 15 years of age to experience something like that. But to put ourselves back into the time of Jesus and of the time of these men, when there wasn't medical treatment, there was no known cure, there was simply the labeling of you as a leper and the outcasting of you from society. It was an incredibly difficult experience for these people, to say the least. They were in a pretty tough spot. And so the disease, as we know it today, begins with swelling and sores that appear on the skin, but they're really indicative of something much deeper that's going on. They're very, very painful, but in time, one of the serious difficulties is that you lose all sensation of pain. One of the reasons that people have damaged limbs, arms, fingers, toes, and so on, is because they don't have a sensation of pain, which means that they can do things to their body that damage their body without them even realizing. How many know that pain is a gift? Yeah. When you touch something hot, you recoil so that you don't get seriously burned. Pain is a gift. And these people have lost that gift. They don't have the capacity to realize that something damaging is happening to their body. They don't feel it. They don't realize it. They don't know it. And so these effects go on. And it can take, we're told, up to 30 years for the disease to go full cycle and actually for you to come to a point where you can begin to move on in your life. But of course, you've got some very serious ramifications, some very serious disabilities that have happened as a result of that. So the disease itself is a very, very difficult thing, and particularly at this time when there was no medical treatment. The result of it is just as damaging, not just in your physical body, that's evident, but the emotional and spiritual damage that can happen in the life of a person. We read in the book of Leviticus what a person has to do when there's a suspicion that they might have contracted the disease of leprosy. They're told that they have to go and present themselves to the priest so that they can have the inspection of the sores on their skin. And if the priest considers, having carefully examined, and it's all listed out, it goes through an entire chapter, and not a short chapter either, it's a long chapter explaining what the priest has to do. And if the priest looks at those sores and examines them carefully, and having examined them decides this could be leprosy, then that person is to be isolated from their camp for a period of 7 days. After 7 days, they have to then come back again. If it doesn't appear that there's any change, they have to go away again and just see what happens. If it's gotten worse, then they're isolated permanently. And if it's gotten better, they have the opportunity to be declared clean and welcomed back into their society. But at that moment, if the priest decides this person probably has leprosy, they are immediately removed from the camp, from their community, without even the opportunity really to say goodbye, for fear that it might be contagious and that they could pass it on to their loved ones. You can't give your wife, your children a hug and say, I'm never going to see you again. It's an immediate ostracization. Your whole world is completely changed. They're told that what they have to do then is live outside the camp, away from the community. They have to shave their head. They have to have worn torn clothes. They have to cover the lower part of their face. I'm not really sure why, other than maybe the transmission of it through air, but it's specifically in Leviticus, unusually it says that they have to cover their mustache. So I don't really understand what the mustache is, but presumably the lower part of their face. And then, if anybody was in their vicinity, they have to yell out in a loud voice, unclean, unclean, to make sure that nobody comes near them. I know in times we can all feel a little bit set apart, feel like maybe somebody doesn't want to be near me, somebody doesn't like me. But for you to actually instruct them to stay away for the rest of your life, that's huge. And there's the opportunity that if for some reason they ever found themselves cured or healed, miraculously healed, they were allowed to come back and present themselves to the priest. But really, how many weeks, week after week, would you come hoping to be told one day you can enter back into society before you'd get to the point where you go, what's the point? This is never going to happen. And here we're told these people, these 10 lepers, had gathered themselves together into their own sort of community because they knew that they couldn't make it worse for each other. And it wasn't an uncommon thing for these people to gather together and to live together. The other thing that's difficult about this is that in Bible times, leprosy was actually seen as a sign of the curse of God upon your life because of sin in your life. And in fact, there's 10 occasions in the Old Testament where we see people who've been cursed with leprosy. In fact, all 10 of the times that we see people with leprosy in the Old Testament, it is a direct result of their own transgression. So it was essentially assumed by the whole of society at the time that if you had leprosy, it was because you had done something wrong, that it was your fault, and that you deserved this. You had done something that had brought God's displeasure, and he had cursed you with leprosy. So the implications of leprosy in these days were huge. It meant complete ostracization, loss of relationship, loss of intimacy, loss of community with one another because of this disease that you had. And it says that as they observed somehow Jesus making his way to Jerusalem along the border of Samaria, it says that they called out in a loud voice, "Jesus, have pity on us." Now we know why they called out in a loud voice. It's because they weren't allowed to come close. They had already made the declaration when they saw people, "Unclean, unclean, stay away." And so in order to communicate with Jesus, they had to yell in a loud voice, project as far as they can, because they had to stay away as far as they can. And to this point, everybody had rejected them. How much courage must it have taken to yell out that day and to hope that Jesus would pay attention to you? But they called out, "Jesus, have mercy on us. Jesus, have pity on us." And then I think one of the most beautiful things, in my mind at least, in this passage, it says, Jesus said to them. Now, I'm communicating here with a microphone, but if I was to take the microphone away and just continue to talk in a normal voice, I'm pretty sure the people at the back would think either he's not really speaking to us, or I can't really hear what he's saying. It's kind of all mumbly and muffly. I wish he would talk up, maybe even yell, so that we could feel included, we could feel a part of this. These people didn't experience that. What that tells me is that Jesus just didn't stand afar off and go, "Oi, over there, here's something that you can do." But actually it says to me that Jesus drew close to them. I don't know what I would feel if I've indicated to these people, "You need to stay away," and despite all my protests, they keep coming closer. That would be intimidating, that would be scary, that would be, in some ways I would feel a sense of maybe hope, but surely not. I would feel so confused watching Jesus walking towards me when I've told him, "You have to stay away." And I wouldn't know, do I go or do I let him come? What do I do? But it says that Jesus said to them. Jesus drew close to them. And he said, "Go and show yourself to the priest." Now, with all we've already heard, you can understand how difficult that instruction is. What do you mean, go and show yourself to the priest? Jesus, I can't show myself to the priest unless I'm healed. I'm going to go to the priest and I'm going to show him everything that was here yesterday and the day before and the day before that. Nothing's changed, Jesus. What do you mean, go and show yourself to the priest? The faith that was required for these 10 men to turn and to walk to the priest that day, that's huge. Sometimes the most difficult time to show faith is before we see the miracle. Isn't that true? There's not a lot of times where Jesus instructed somebody to do something before they were healed. We see the story of the official's son, where the official came and said, "My boy is home and he's dying." And in fact, as he was trying to communicate with Jesus, servants came to him and said, "Don't bother the master anymore, your son's dead." But Jesus said to him, "Go, your son is well." And he had to turn around and walk probably around about 20 kilometers to get back home, not knowing whether his son was alive or dead. And the last he'd heard was from his servants who had been there, your son is dead, and from Jesus who hadn't, he's alive. What a conflicting set of emotions as you're walking back going, well, I've been told that he's dead. That's a kind of a final moment right there. But Jesus said that he's not. They were there. He wasn't. What do I do with this? And every single step of the way, for 20 kilometers, this man had to say, I choose the words of Jesus. I choose what he said. I choose to believe. That's a pretty difficult experience. We see another one. When the servants came to Jesus and they said to him, we've run out of wine. There's no more wine. This is going to be an embarrassment to our master. And so Jesus said to them, go and find every pitcher and urn and vessel that you can find and bring them to me and fill them to the top with water. And so they did that, thinking, what's the point of this? But they did it. And Jesus said, now go give it to the master and let him drink. And they know they put water in the urn. They know that it's water in the vessel. But they carry it to the master anyway. And when he drinks it, he says, where did this come from? This is the best wine. At what point did that water turn to wine? And this isn't, well, Jesus has got a pretty good track record, so, it's easy to sort of rely on this. This is the first public miracle that Jesus has performed. But the servants, at his word, risked their own sense of self and their own reputation and went to the master and said, here, this is probably good stuff. So it takes an incredible amount of faith, an incredible belief and trust in who Jesus is to be able to take him at his word. But here we see these 10 lepers did exactly that. And they began their walk to the priest. And I can't imagine that the priest was anywhere particularly nearby. I mean, they were on the border of Judea and Samaria. Priests didn't go anywhere near Samaria, and they certainly didn't go near a group of 10 lepers. And so they had at least a decent walk to get there. And at some point along that walk, and we're not told when, something happened. Maybe 10 steps from where Jesus was, maybe 10 steps from the priest. I don't know. But imagine the conversation between those 10 people. The doubts that are there. I don't see the point in this. Nothing's changed. We can all examine each other and say, yes, we've got leprosy. The priest doesn't need to do that. We can do that. And then maybe at one point, somebody looks across and goes, goodness me, Josh, your face is all cleared. Your nose is back. I don't know. But at some point along that walk, they were healed. And then it says, and this is where it becomes really challenging, I think. It says that one of them came back. One of them came back. And the question that Jesus asks, were not all 10 of you healed? Where is the other 9? Isn't Jesus being shocked, thinking, gosh, I thought it was powerful enough to do that? No, I really thought when I said it to like all 10, like only one of you got healed. That blows my mind. Jesus asking that question isn't the indication that he has some kind of self-doubt. Jesus asking the question indicates that he expects gratitude. He anticipated that after they were healed, they would come and they would say, thank you. Were not all 10 of you healed? How is it that only one came back to say thanks? And this is what I want to say this morning. Gratitude is harder than you think. Gratitude is harder than you think. I would like to suggest that if I put myself into the situation of what these lepers had been through all of their life, to come one day and show myself to the priest
knowing that I'm there only because a person said, go and do it, see how it turns out. And the priest declares me for the first time in 40 years, 60 years, 20 years, really, it doesn't matter how long, it's a long time, and it's cost me a lot of my life. When the priest says, you're clean, go and see your family, go and see your friends, go and see your children, go and see your loved ones, whatever it might be, just enjoy your life again. I would like to think I would be able to say thank you. Well, what this shows us is that 9 out of 10, even with something as miraculous as that, couldn't do it, didn't do it, wouldn't do it. Now, I don't want to question the other 9 and ask and figure out what's going on there. What I do want to do is look at my own life and ask myself, am I grateful? Do I have a spirit of gratitude? How do I make sure that even in the small things, if I can't be grateful in the big things, how am I ever supposed to be grateful in the small things? Where do I see myself? And if I'm honest, that's what I'm saying. It's an easy thing to nudge the person and go, well, you need to hear this message. But we're talking 9 out of 10 of us here. So you'd have to nudge a lot of other people to cover off 9 before you can be the one, right? If we're honest, let's admit that gratitude is harder than we think. And I want to talk to us a little bit about that this morning. One of the things that's really cool that we see in the life of this man is he was unashamed in his gratitude. Here is a man that is used to yelling all of his life. Unclean, unclean, anytime anybody gets anywhere near him. And here we're told that he comes back and in a loud voice gives praise to God. Is our gratitude as outrageous as the rest of our life? I wonder. Because it's an easy thing to just come up and go, by the way, Jesus, thanks, mate. But he had to be demonstrably public with his disease. I love that he was demonstrably public with his praise. I love that. In a loud voice. He wasn't embarrassed. He wasn't ashamed. He was saying, this is wonderful. This has been gifted to me. And I love that he yelled it out for everybody to hear. He made a show of Jesus in front of it and said, this is what this man has done for me. And I want everybody to know that I'm thankful. How cool is that? I think at its core, what prevents us for the most part, and there's other things. I think busyness is one of those. I'm sure that these other lepers wanted to go and tell their family, tell their friends, see their kids who maybe they'd never seen them walk. There's a lot of things that the other people may have done. But I think at its core, the thing that really prevents us from gratitude more than anything else is entitlement. The idea that somehow these things happen because I deserve them. It would be easy as the leper to say, well, look, I know that all of society says I've got leprosy because I sinned, but I really know it was because I hugged that auntie back at Christmas 2 years ago. I didn't deserve this, right? And so, now that I've been cured is just a justification of my life. I didn't deserve to be, to have leprosy, so I certainly, deserve to be cured. It may be that, you think, well, Jesus does miracles for plenty of people, and, he healed some official's son, and that guy's got bucket loads of money. He's never had any difficulty in his life. So if Jesus is going to heal anybody, he should be healing me. I mean, I've been cast out of society for so many years, and we can frame it up however we want, but we have a preoccupation with ourselves, where we are so consumed with thinking about ourselves and seeing ourselves and wanting for ourselves and expressing ourselves that we fail to stop and to realize that life to us is a gift. If we really stopped and thought about it, what is it in this life that we actually deserve? What have any of us earned? But we're so consumed with ourselves. We expect that everything around us revolves around us, and that somehow it is all conspiring to somehow make our life great. And when something doesn't go wrong, we look to rationalize that and justify that in light of ourselves. I can't believe they would be so mean to me. I can't believe that person would treat me like that. After everything I've done for them, the least that they could have done. And we get so consumed with it. And I want to encourage us today to begin again to see our life as a gift. To see the amazing things that God has done for us and to give thanks for that. But to see as well that whatever is offered from another person to us is a gift as well. You know, even in marriage, what I offer to my wife and what my wife offers to I is the result of a promise that I made, not something that she has deserved or earned. When she says to me, I love you, when she gives me a hug, it's a choice that she's made to offer that. And as soon as, and I'm sure we all have experienced this, as soon as we try and extract those things, don't they lose their value? Right, you have to give me a hug. I've earned it. All right, yeah, that felt meaningful. You know? So as soon as we try and extract those things in life, they lose their value. They become hollow. They become empty. And then we have to try and work harder to get more. But if we can learn to see everything that comes as a gift, then we can see beauty in it. We can sit in wonder and awe. Wow, to think that somebody would do that for me. I'm not talking about belittling ourselves and demeaning ourselves. Humility is not the act of me groveling. There's a Jewish proverb that says humility is having the right amount of space for myself, but leaving room for other people. I think that's pretty cool. The idea that I have the right picture of myself in the scheme of everything. And not to think that I'm entitled or that I deserve. In fact, in the previous passage, if you've still got your Bible open, we can have a look at it. At the end of this passage, just before we start into verse 11, Jesus is telling a really interesting story about a servant that comes back from the field. And it says when he comes back from the field, is the master going to say to him, mate, you've been working hard today. Why don't you hop down in front of the TV for a while? You know, grab the remote and I'll bring you a nice cold drink. He said, no. When the servant comes home, the master says, clean yourself up. It's time to get my dinner ready. And we can stop and we can go, gosh, that's pretty hard. What a harsh master. But really, isn't that what the servant is there for? Is to be doing those things. And when we stop and we think, really what Jesus is trying to say is, in life, we are servants to God. Not out of some kind of discipline or requirement, but really, if we see it rightly, out of love for Him, for everything He has done for us. He says, while I was still a sinner, Christ died for me. He didn't die because I deserved it. He died because He loved me. And my response to that isn't, God, well, you know, of course you did. I mean, look at me. This face, how could you resist? The reality is that we accept what He did as a gift. And we say, God, I want to give to you. And our acts of service are simply that. Acts of love toward Him in recognition of everything that He's done. It's our way of saying thank you for what you did for me. Yeah. Instead of the farmer, it says the farmer who said, you know what, my harvest is abundant today. What I'm going to do, since I don't have room for it, I'm going to tear down my barns and and I'm going to build bigger barns, and then I can just sit back and eat, drink, enjoy my life. And God says, you're an idiot. Your life's gone like that. What do you mean sit back, enjoy? You think you've got a big harvest today, but all you need is, a big strong tornado to come through, and all those barns are gone, and all your harvest is gone. And not even that, maybe not even the harvest, maybe your own life will be required of you tonight. We don't have the luxury of saying, hey, my future's set for me. This is cool. What a cruisy ride. No, God's saying we have to be able to look at every day and say, today is a gift. There's a beautiful prayer in the Proverbs. With a proverb, the writer of Proverbs says, God, this is what I ask of you. Don't give me too much, because I'll forget who you are. I'll think I'm self-sufficient. I think I'll be able to do life by myself. So just give me the right amount. When was the last time we prayed that to God? Father, don't give me too much. I'm doing okay. Tomorrow, some food would be good, but let's deal with that today. I just need what I need for today. Instead of striving and wrestling and fighting and conniving and extracting, and just to offer that prayer to God. God, please don't give me too much. Just enough. Let's be honest, he does say, don't give me too little or else I might end up stealing something and dishonor your name. So that's cool. Let's go with that too. Just enough, God. I need enough for today. I need to see this life as a gift. Everything that benefits me has been freely bestowed. Just in case you're wondering, there are some genuine health benefits to being grateful. We'll just chuck those out. There's bigger things than that, but hey, let's have a look at those just in case you're thinking you need some motivation. In 2003, there was a study that looked at the idea of keeping a gratitude journal, taking time every day to write down something that you're grateful for. And the people who participated in that had 16% fewer symptoms physically in whatever it was that they were struggling with. 19% of them resulted in spending more time exercising. 10% experienced less physical pain. 8% experienced more sleep, and 25% increased sleep quality. There you go. If you're not sleeping well, let's try that. In fact, there was another study in 2009 that said that gratitude directly correlated with improved sleep quality, less time required to fall asleep, and increased sleep duration. There you go. It's a cure for an insomnia right there. Just be grateful. In 2005, a study indicated that gratitude reduced depressive symptoms by 35% for several weeks. And in fact, it went on to say that it lowered depressive symptoms by 30% for as long as the journal was kept, as long as the practice of gratitude was maintained. So just for a week, you'll get 35% better off in terms of depressive symptoms. But if you keep it up, as long as you keep going, 30% reduction. I've got some other studies there. We don't need to go into them. It's not relevant, in as much as there's bigger things. And the thing is that when this man comes back and says to Jesus, thank you for what you did, Jesus says something really interesting to him. He says, your faith has made you whole. These other people were cured of leprosy, but the man who came back in gratitude was restored fully. In fact, the word there is the word sozo, which means where we get salvation. What this man received in coming back to Jesus was infinitely greater than the people who said, leprosy, it's gone. Good, I'll get on with my life. So I just want to encourage you to really consider the practice of gratitude in life, to realize it is a challenge. It's not an easy thing. What I'm going to do as we come to a close is I'm just going to invite some people to hand out some pieces of paper for us, and everybody's going to get 2 pieces of paper. And if you don't get any, we'll guillotine some more, so just hang in there. So they're just going to come around. If you've got a pen, great. If you don't have a pen, put your hand up, and we've got some pens coming around. If these just get passed along the aisle, just grab a couple of pieces and pass it on. we'll get it out as quickly as we can. And hopefully you can continue to focus while the pieces of paper are coming and it's not too distracting for you. I had already spoken with Melissa about organising these pieces of paper, and then I read this. It was a story of Robinson Crusoe. Now, we often think of him as a fictional character, but he was an explorer. And when he was shipwrecked on his island, he actually drew up 2 columns, not on a piece of paper, he probably didn't have one, but he drew up 2 columns. One he titled evil, and the other he titled good. And he was on this desolate island, but he said to himself, on the bad side, I'm here on this deserted island on my own, but on the good side, I didn't drown like everybody else that was on my ship. He said, I'm alone, banished from mankind and from human society, but on the good side, I'm not starving. I've got something to eat. On the evil side, he said, I've got no clothes. On the good side, he said, it's a pretty hot climate here. Don't really need them. On the bad side, he said, I don't have any means to defend myself. But on the good side, he said, some of the animals that I saw down the coast of Africa, they're not here on this little island. On the bad side, he said, I've got no one that I can speak to, no one to commune with. And on the good side, he said, God is here. And he brought the ship so close to shore that I can easily swim out and get some things if I need them. So he concluded that there was nothing in this life so miserable that he couldn't find something to be thankful for. So, what I would like us to do is to take some time, maybe if we can have one of the musicians come back or something just to play something, or if we can put something on at the back, I don't mind which. But what I would like us to do is just take a moment to write down things that we're grateful for. And the natural tendency for many of us is that we easily think of the things that we struggle with, the things that are frustrating, where we get annoyed, who we hate. We can think of those things. And I would suggest if you draw a column, feel free to write those things down. But then, just as I encouraged with my kids, sure, there's a whole plate of food and you can look at that and go, yuck, I don't like it. But there is something there that you can be grateful for. Learn how to see what it is. Write those things down. So even in anything that you write that you consider to be evil or negative, okay. But then look and see something. Someone once wrote, be thankful that you don't already have everything that you desire, because if you did, what would there be to look forward to? Be thankful when you don't know something, because it gives you the opportunity to learn. Be thankful for the difficult times, because it's during those times that you grow. Be thankful for your limitations, because they give you opportunity for improvement. Be thankful for each new challenge, because it will build your strength and your character. Be thankful for your mistakes. It will teach you valuable lessons. Be thankful when you're tired and weary, because it means that you have given your all. It's easy to be thankful for the good things, but a life of rich fulfillment comes to those who are thankful for the setbacks. Gratitude can turn a negative into a positive. Find a way to be thankful for your troubles, and they can become your blessings. In 1 Thessalonians 5:18 it says, be thankful in all things, because this is the will of God for you. Be thankful in all things, because this is the will of God for you. So just take some time to write down those things that you're thankful for. Now you'll notice that you've got 2 pieces of paper. The second one, what I would encourage you to do is to write a note of thanks to somebody. If you're one of the 9 lepers here and you've not yet taken the chance to say thank you to Jesus, I'd suggest now's a good time. But really, all of us, if we're honest, can say, there have been gifts that have been given to me in my life that I have not honored by saying thank you. We may not be able to do all of that this morning. I'm sure we can't. But maybe there's one, and that's a start. So I encourage you to think carefully about someone that you need to thank. Someone that has gifted something to you, whether that's tangible or intangible. But I don't really think I've expressed to them then I'm grateful. Maybe they don't even know. Maybe they're left wondering, like Jesus was, like, didn't they get healed? Didn't that happen for them? I don't know. So take the time to write a note of thanks. And as you go out of this place, it's not necessarily someone here. Don't think it has to be somebody here. But as you go out of this place, you might think to yourself, I want to do better than writing it on this piece of paper. I'm going to buy them a card, or I'm going to print it up on a computer with a nice picture. I'm going to do something to, go a little bit more out of my way. I'm not saying spend hundreds of dollars and do something crazy. What I am saying is do something demonstrable. The man was not ashamed to say, I've been yelling all my life. I'm going to yell now. So do it. Make sure you actually give it to them. Make sure you actually say thanks. It's going to take a few more minutes and just continue to write down some of those things that you're grateful for. There are so many things in our life that God has given us, and there are so many things in our life that have been gifted to us from other people. Truth is, sometimes it's the ones that are closest to us that we take for granted. Isn't that true? Quite happy to take some time doing this. I'd encourage you, to continue it, because first of all, gratitude is so important. But as we've seen this morning, gratitude is more difficult than we realize. Just while you continue to do that, I'm going to pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you. And sometimes our words can seem inadequate. But from our heart today, we say thank you. Our life is a gift. Your word tells us that even the breath in our lungs is a gift from you. What you have done in giving of your own life for us. We don't deserve that. We receive it and we say thank you. The freedoms that we experience in this country that we live with, the houses that we live in, the cars that we drive, the clothes that we wear, the food that we eat, all this is a gift. Your word tells us that you own the cattle on 1,000 hills. The whole earth is yours and everything therein. We are custodians of it for this time, and we thank you. We thank you for the relationships that you've given to us. Our husbands, our wives, our children, our parents, our friends, our family. All these are gifts. We thank you for this church that we can be a part of. We thank you for our friends here. We thank you for our leadership. These things are gifts to us. We thank you for your word, that you communicate to us, that you challenge us, that you encourage us. Thank you, Father.